Hey everybody, Strone here with another First Edition Friday First Edition video. Today we're going to work with Know Your Enemy. In my last video last week on Saturday during the set release video, I talked about how Know Your Enemy's probably the new 5-star card from the new set. 5-star basically just meaning that I think it's probably the best card in the set, and that it can be a very good card. Of course, you have to build around it, but 5-star cards tend to do that. They tend to be cards that it's not that they go into like every single deck out there. That's not what makes them a 5-star. What makes them a 5-star is that in the decks that they go in, they end up being really good. And this is a single seed draw engine that if you build around it, is going to reward you. So that's what we're going to do today. That's what we've done today. Is that what we've done is we've worked on a Dominion deck that we can utilize Know Your Enemy, so we get a single seed draw engine in a Dominion deck that wants to harass the opponent to some degree. And it being only a single seed draw engine means it opens up other seed slots for us to be able to set up properly in order to do that. What we've gone with here is a suite of missions that trigger off the Cardassian icon. So we've got Cardassian icon, Cardassian icon, Cardassian icon, and even a Cardassian icon on Steady Planetary Devastation. This is relevant because Khan Noonien Singh is something that we're going to download in the seed phase with our Preserver Obelisk here, because he's a person named by a 23rd century mission. I was playing with the 23rd century mission. We open up Spock's brain. But most importantly, what it is this is a deck that then gets draw engines of Know Your Enemy and New Arrivals. And then the New Arrivals acts as its free play engine. And then we are also going to seed an Obsession to get a Shellyak. And then we plan on shooting the Shellyak. We also plan on shooting our opponent. And this Khan Noonien Singh, he downloads Sleeper Ship. So Sleeper Ship, whenever you win your ship wins a battle and its matching commanders aboard, you may report a personnel aboard. So we basically get that for free in the seed plays with Khan Noonien Singh. And what the Dominion do best is they turn their Jem'Hadar and their Vortas into matching commanders with a VR headset. And we'll get a VR headset into play very quickly using Ultimatum to download us a remote supply depot and up to 2 equipment cards. So we grab a VR headset, and then depending on what our opponent's doing, if our opponent is playing with a referee pile, then we will have to get a Ketracel White to keep our Jem'Hadar in check. And if our opponent's not, which tends to be the case these days, that frees us up to either get a rifle, a Cartaken, a transport inhibitor to kind of mess with our opponent, or one of the kits that we can use for mission solving purposes. This is how I've set the deck up now. I think realistically, if I was to like reconfigure the deck, or if you wanted to reconfigure the deck, what you might want to simply do is put some of these equipment cards into the draw deck, and then put some of your assigned support personnel Jem'Hadar into the Q's tent, because you can always download them with assigned support personnel, and that just makes it a little bit more efficient. We do have a couple copies of Victory is Live to be able to get a couple of them as needed, but I think realistically, if I was to just reconfigure this deck, we would just probably move the medical kit, the science kit, and a transport inhibitor. We'll just go into the draw deck, and we just pick 3 of our support personnel Jem'Hadar to go into the Q's tent in their place. So well, that's something you can do for a next version. If you want to take this deck, you want to make upgrades to it, you want to do something different, you can do that as well. We are going to play with a Battle Bridge Door, so that when we attack the Shellyak, we can get over its shields without issue, because the VR headset already is giving us a +1 weapons. But what it's about is that we are going to be running full phaser spread. And we're running full phaser spread so that we can kill science and stellar cartography. And we're going to be using the new dilemmas with close that door and dark matter pockets. We're going to try to drain stellar cartography from our opponent and also science from our opponent. So we're running with Spock's brain, and we're running with like misinterpreted history. Now, misinterpreted history doesn't kill science, but science tend to be the most cunning in a group, or at the very least, they'll be one of the options typically, and so you'll be able to kill probably somebody relevant with a misinterpreted history. And then we have our walls that require science, like rock people, like dark matter pockets. And then we're also running some fun stuff in here. We've got the cloud. The cloud will act as a qualifier. So if our opponent doesn't send a lot of people, ship will be damaged. If there's any science or stellar cartography, they're going to die immediately. And then put that ship in a timeout, and then it gives us a target for battle. Yeah, and it's pretty straightforward. We get to do something fun. We get to play with explosive decompression, since we are running 3 space universal missions. So explosive decompression will act as a kill 3 in space. If they also still have greater than 9 personnel remaining, we may also like double flip, but that's like never going to happen. So we don't worry about that. Anyway, so let's get to the game. Again, we're flipping our doorways here. This is what we have here. And then we've got Ultimatum, the Obsession, and so forth. We've got the sleeper ship that we downloaded with Khan. We have our Defend Homeworld here as well. So I went ahead and kind of pre-seeded the game to save time. This is how it came out. The mission plan that you want to go with a deck like this is you want to interlace with the opponent. Since we're running Obsession and we have copies of Quantum Slipstream Drive in our deck, we can gain access to anywhere on the space line that we want to. We are running a neutral outpost so that we can always seed our outpost in the Alpha Quadrant near an Alpha Quadrant opponent. We are, again, just kind of theoretically testing against like one of the top decks in the format, which is the Engineer Mission Specialist TNG deck. We've assumed that our opponent's going to put the Shellyak like as far away, like on the longer end from where they plan on starting. Not that it really matters. I think most opponents would probably just stick it over here, just because to me it kind of makes sense. The reason we do have so many seed phase seed cards with this deck, and so we are able to outseed a lot of opponents, and so therefore we can kind of push them to wait and see where they put their outpost, and then we can seed our outpost near their outpost so that we can just be near them in the Alpha Quadrant. If you're playing as a non-Alpha Quadrant opponent, it's not relevant. And then, of course, the Quantum Slipstream Drives will give us access to those other quadrants. We've seeded our dilemmas here. We've put a dead end with the dark matter pockets on the far end of the space line from where we think our opponent is going to start. Since they have their 2 best space missions down here, we assume that they'd probably play on this end of the space line, so we'll just keep the dead end and the dark matter pockets away from them. The deck is too good at beating dead end for you to put it near them. And then we have our other combos that we have set up here. These are the pre-constructed combos that I've made with this deck. We have a Close That Door into the Disgraceful Assault. And so if they have a doorway, they could just discard it, but most of the time an opponent will probably just do the science and stellar cartography. We then Disgraceful Assault them and kill the stellar cartography, hopefully. And then, since this is a space combo, it's going to require nav and stellar cartography to get past it, so hopefully we kill the stellar cartography and then they can't get past the dark matter pockets. Here, a planet, we have a Hanonian land eel into the Deneman, into a rock people. This is just a classic combo that you see that has historically always been good. For us, for our purposes, it works really well because it forces a science. We try to kill the science, or at least half the away team, and then they still need to have 3 Geo or 3 science. And rock people is just a good dilemma on its own. We have a cloud into explosive, into a scientific method. That's kind of our primary space combo. The cloud acts as a qualifier. It also puts a ship in timeout if the opponent wants to attempt early, because they probably don't have the requirements, and then follows up with an explosive decompression, which is not telegraphed by the cloud at all. So if the opponent goes in with some people, they're going to probably lose some, and then the scientific method is our wall. So hopefully that holds people off. We have a misinterpret history into the Spock's brain and the scientific method over here. So hopefully we try to kill a science here, then we definitely remove a science here, and then that makes scientific method harder. And then over here at the remaining planet, we have a buried alive into a cloud, into a rock people. So the idea here is with the buried alive, a lot of opponents will put a bunch of people on the planet, usually a few people in space. We then put the ship in timeout, which then requires them to bring another ship. We put this combo kind of away from the center of the space line so that it's unlikely that they'd have a ship just right there. So it's going to buy you a turn, and then they get there just to find that they need rock people. But the other thing that this does is that buried alive into a cloud will put that ship into timeout, but it'll typically strand the people on the planet, giving you time to get to them and just start killing them. And then they need to basically come up with the 3 Geo or 3 science with whatever they have remaining that was not invested. So making it more difficult. So this is a pretty standard kind of drain plus a battle deck strategy. Nothing, we're not reinventing the wheel here. One of the fun things that we're doing though with this deck is we're running like Khan, the movie Khan in the deck with the Eel package. As you see here, we put 4 copies of Khan in the deck because we can just, if we get one early, we can just persona swap as a free act, the free start a turn, and that kind of activates our eels. So yeah, so let's just kind of go ahead and fishbowl this out. So we start with that. We start with just simply swapping our cons because we want to. And then we would, as our card play, flip for ships. We go to the Q's tent and we find a Jem'Hadar warship. Oh, what did I do with it? Must have went to the deck. I know I messed around with this a little bit. Yep, we moved the Jem'Hadar warship to the deck. So we can do deck thinning early on. So we get a Jem'Hadar warship. We can then free play Shahrazad to it. The persona swap doesn't count as playing, so we've not, and we also got the temporal micro wormhole in play, so we can just play Shahrazad for free directly to the ship. We can that's our card play, that's our free play. We don't get any more free plays because of new arrivals. But what we'll do then is we will use temporal micro wormhole to get a space-time portal into play, and then we use our defend homeworld, and we get Deos, and we run him through the temporal micro wormhole. This is all pretty standard Dominion fare. Our Shahrazad is a Dominion engineer. And so we'll be able just to move to our 1 mission next door with these people on board. And our Dominion engineer will use Ultimatum to download a remote supply depot directly to that mission, along with 2 equipment cards. This deck doesn't really run, it doesn't run the Tribunal package at all, so we don't got to really worry about getting a Ketracel White. So we can just get a VR headset, and let's just go ahead and grab a, since we're playing against Feds and they tend to be pretty weak, I don't think we're too worried about not being strong enough to win battles and stuff like that. It would be nice to be able to snag a random a random mortal kill, but we will probably need to be more efficient at solving missions and stuff. So we'll grab a medical kit. And then we can assign support. We cannot assign support personnel because we downloaded Deos' turn. So we just simply fly back to here. The Shellyak not anywhere near us, so we can't shoot it for profit. And so we would just go ahead and go to end of turn. A pretty simple, straightforward turn. But we do get to draw 3 because we have new arrivals, we have know your enemy, and we have our end of turn card draw. So we would draw 3, and then the Shellyak would move. Our opponent would have their turn. They're not going to do anything first turn, most likely. Shellyak moves. We get to our turn. If we want to be silly, we have a quantum associated drive to get over to the Shellyak now, but I don't really see a point to that. So what we'll simply do is free play of Aratidon directly to the ship with assigned support personnel, and that draws us a card with Deos. And then we will play Rakeen as our card play. And then since we have the Aractaral, and we want to probably try to get an invasive beam in, we could try to get over to the Shellyak and shoot it, but it'll put us out of position if the opponent decides to attempt on turn 2. So we'll just kind of let that pass for right now. There's really nothing else that we want to do other than just download and assign support personnel. So let's grab everybody's favorite Tamozuma. So he goes directly onto the ship where Deos is. We draw a card. And then we are good. So then we go to our end of turn and we just simply draw 3. Shellyak moves at the end of our turn. Opponent has his turn. Now, this the deck of the opponent, it does like to attempt from a ship on turn 2 if it can. So let's assume that he just goes in with like 2 or 3 idiots that we know are not going to beat the Cloud. So the Cloud will hit the opponent's ship and put it into timeout. Opponent's thinking, oh, that's probably good for them. That deck doesn't struggle for ships. So ship is damaged, and then it stops until the end of turn. So it just simply takes 2 hits from a full phaser spread. If there were any signs or stellar cartography on the ship, then they would be dead immediately. And then turn would pass to us, and the Shellyak would move. So we come to our turn, and we will go ahead and do. Let's play a Masud for free, and then we will card play an Amatodon. That draws us a card with Deos. We get a free play of a Seti Eel, and then we can assign support personnel. Let's get Varakara because he's cool, which draws us a card. That's pretty good. And then what we can do is we can just shoot the opponent's ship. And we're definitely going to be able to hit a ship in that deck with a full phaser spread. So then we just flip 2 more full phaser spreads, and that gets us to 120 hull damage. And we would blow up the opponent's ship. But that would allow us to then utilize the sleeper ship, and we get our Aractaral directly onto the ship, which then draws us a card. And then turn would pass to the opponent. The Shellyak is going to move to here. Opponent has his turn. If he plays another ship, which he most likely does, at the very least, most likely because they've used a Reunite Legends for their first ship, they can then use their download of a universal ship with the Attention All Hands, I believe. So let's say they just do that and they put a few more people on their ship and they attempt, and then they hit the explosive decompression and just kills all of them. End of opponent's turn, the Shellyak moves to here. One thing that we should have done is we should have simply discarded a card to reopen the space door. We would have discarded our extra copy of Khan in order to do that. We would have thought about that because we would have known that we want to probably shoot both the Shellyak and possibly an opponent's ship on the same turn, so we want to have two ships for that. And so let's just assume we did that. So then we get to our turn, and we would just simply go card play, space door, and we can get, we would look at the cards that we have here. We have a command star, we have a command star, we have a command star. We have lots of Ketracel whites, we're not worried about that. So we would be able to, if we wanted to, we have the 3 command stars we need for these, so we can grab a Dominion battleship. Alright, so that's our card play. We could then free play. Well, it's free. We free play a SETI Eel to start with, and then we can strongest personnel is going to be, well, Sarad will also give us, I mean, he's the strongest, pretty sure. So we free play a Sarad. Okay. We don't draw a card from that, but we're okay with that. Then we would go to assign support personnel. And we're going to assign support personnel a 9 strength Cardassian. So then we have our Iraq Taral, and our Iraq Taral is going to special download our invasive beam-in. And then what we can do is we can start doing two things at once. The Jem'Hadar warship can just simply fly to here. Jem'Hadar warship will fly to there, and it will fly there with Deos and Deos, and I suppose Gunashan, and then I suppose Sharazad, and the VR headset. And then by doing that, they'll be able to fly to there, and then they'll be able to attack the Shellyak. And since we know what's going to happen, we can just go ahead and put the 2 copies of the full phaser spread onto the Shellyak. It's a matching commander, so then we put a card on board. So we put a card on board, and we put we'll put Kudakatan on board, and that draws us a card. And then back here with these personnel, we have transporter skill present with invasive transporters, so we can then have these people then beam on to the opponent's outpost and then just initiate battle. But that's not. But that's after we just go ahead and have Khan do a SETI Eel. So Khan will SETI Eel, and we have the draw a card guy. So we actually draw 2 cards from doing that, and then we would initiate battle. And then whatever our opponent's been trying to protect, which includes the mission specialist for sure, they're going to either be SETI-EEL'd or they're going to die. Yep. We would then be able to go victory is life and score 5 points. And download an equipment card. And then this is where we would try to decide like what means more to us. If we truly like crush our opponent, since we've SETI-EEL'd 2, and then killed a 3rd for sure, and then hopefully got lucky with a mortal wound or something like that. Somewhere online, we probably killed 4 other people, so they probably have like just 2 or 3 people left. Then we can decide if we want to download the Jem'Hadar Disruptor Rifle or a card taken to them. We probably just do a Disruptor Rifle because it may serve us later on against the Den of Mineral Parasites or something. Yeah. And that's how you would work to basically hurt an opponent early with this deck. So yeah, that's kind of how it is. End of the turn, the Shellyak can only move to here. End of opponent's turn, the Shellyak can only move to here. And then we would be able to, on our next turn, well, we would draw 3 at the end of turn. We would be able to then play... We can play a Persis as our card play. We can free play Zetazon directly to where Deos is at to draw a card. And then we can assign support personnel, and this time we'll just go grab a Lamb. We're doing fine on card draws here, so we don't really need more than that. And then just depending on what our opponent did, if we've hurt them badly enough, or if they forgot, maybe didn't dock their ship or something like that, which is the other thing we could have been able to do. We had so many people, just depending on how many people our opponent had, we then would have been able to also potentially just undock the Dominion battleship. Because we would have been able to beam Khan on in order to do the SETI-EELs, and then take Khan and possibly one of the command, we'd take a command star, and then we just simply have like Viratodon and then one of the other Jem'Hadar, Varakara or whatever, they would have been able to then be aboard the Dominion battleship. They could have shot the ship that was still undocked if the opponent left it undocked. If they didn't, then we can commit to everybody being in the battle. It all is very situationally dependent. But we'll be able to destroy the Shellyak with our matching commander on board, so we would be able to then get we'd be able to then put I mean, we've already unfortunately done 1 AU personnel this turn, so we would be able to just do a Lamaticon, which would then draw us a card, and then we would also score the 15 points here, so we would actually have 20 bonus points right now. And we'd be able to keep wrecking the opponent back at their headquarters, back at their outpost if they're still playing personnel. Now, of course, all of this is dependent upon them playing a version that is not playing We Are the Metrons. If they're playing We Are the Metrons, then we might be in trouble a little bit. We can still SETI-EEL some people, so at the very least what we might be able to do is get Khan on board and SETI-EEL some mission specialists. You know, Leia Brahms makes a great SETI-EEL target so that they won't be able to 2-mission win. And if they can't 2-mission win, then they've got to leave. They have to leave the confines of their happy little space mission. If the opponent's seated at a planet mission and so forth, you know, that might be an issue as well. But they would still need to solve the mission in order to gain access to a Blade of Takan if the version's running a Blade of Takan. and then they'd probably want to Blade of Takan their own mission away so they could try to get away. But again, they're going to have to do 2 missions out in the open, and you would just be hammering them once they've solved that first mission instead. And so even with the We Are the Metrons, the opponent's not really going to be able to run and hide. This deck is also running enough bonus point engines and stuff, with the Shellyak for 15 points, 2 copies of Victory is Life for another 10. That you have basically like the 10 points you need to do 3 30-point missions. But realistically speaking here, we want to find Hidden Base. And so at some point you're going to have to get the 2 hand weapons in play, which is why I said that I think that redoing the deck, you're going to want to just put some of these equipment cards just straight up into the deck. If anything, maybe just all of them. What I would do is I would leave the Shahrazad in there, and also the Yaktalon and the Tenozuma. They're the engineers. So that way you have a chance of having them in your opening hand, so you can just get your... that way you can just maybe, turn 1, you get your download of their Multiply Devo. So, and that's really how you play the deck. What's important to understand about the deck is the deck has a lot of things covered, because you're playing with so many expendable Jem'Hadar and expendable augments. You can kind of just throw people into the fire and still be able to come up with the very easy mission requirements the deck has. I mean, 3 security, 2 leadership, or leadership and 2 science, which you're either pulling off of a kit, or geology, which you have on multiple Jem'Hadar. This one's Nav security computer skill, which is obviously ridiculously easy for them. We don't even really care about the 5 smuggling points, although I guess I don't even know if I put smuggling in the deck. No, we put no smuggling in the deck. So if you want to find a slot for some smuggling, go ahead. But you can do this mission for 40 points. So, and then of course Science Astro Transporter skill, and then the Treachery ×2 off of Deos, or Treachery ×2 off of Khan is ridiculously easy. Security leadership, and then any of your ships, not a problem. And then again, security, navigation, and Treachery ×2. So the mission skills are ridiculously compact and easy for this deck. It's just about busting dilemmas. And like I said, you've got a lot of cannon fodder here to work with. You've got multiple copies of Khan and stuff, so even if you lose Khan, you can just play another Khan. So Khan himself is even not really that big of a deal. And then of course, theoretically, you SETI eel your opponent's like best personnel. So Command Star with a lot of skills is usually the primary target. If you're playing against the Mission Specialist deck, you target the Mission Specialists, because if you take them, they can't even be gotten back from the discard pile. So yeah, beating dilemmas and solving missions is just going to be methodical with this deck. So you do spend the first 3, 4, 5 turns crushing the opponent as best you can, and then just you got to rely on your dilemmas to hold up. But getting 2 ships into play with a space store is easy peasy, and that's probably just what you want to do every single game anyway. The deck draws a ton of cards, so you're not going to have trouble finding what you need. This deck is actually more limited by its plays than it is its draws. But that is the beauty of the Know Your Enemy, is that it allows you to dig and dig and dig for stuff if you really need to. So if there's another skill you need to get off of one of the augment people, such as the science or the biology, off of Masood or something like that, not hard. But yeah, I think that this deck is pretty functional. It is going to struggle to some degree against an off-quadrant deck. So if the opponent's in the mirror quadrant, you're going to struggle a little bit. If you want to, since you're seeding an ultimatum, you can gain access to the other quadrants by having the Bajoran wormholes in the deck. Of course, they then become dead draws against an opponent who's doing, if the opponent is doing first stable wormhole, they'll get access first, but that's just kind of the risk you would take. For the purpose of this video, and in a basic deck, I didn't do that. And then of course the Delta Quadrant, your only access is Quantum Slipstream Drive, but that's not a problem. The deck has 4 Quantum Slipstream Drives and 2 Paler Toffs, and it is a free play. And in most cases, like if you get a Dominion battleship, your ship's going to be bigger than the opponent, so you're not going to have too much trouble. So that's the deck. If you have any thoughts, comments, suggestions, leave them in the comments section below the video. And please like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And as always, may the profits be with you.